What's going on, guys? So today I am joined with one of my good friends, Brad. He's also my coach as well too. And today we're just going to talk about his story of becoming a powerful leader within his space. Because again, before I clicked record, I was just basically expressing that I know a little bit of his story of where he was to where he is now, but just I want like knowing the internal environment of like what he kind of went through to where he is today. I'm super excited to just to hear from his own perspective of what he went through to build the person he is today. So, Brad, welcome, dude. I'm happy to have you here.
Oh yeah, dude. Thank you for having me, bro. Always a pleasure.
Let's fucking go. So, for the listeners and everyone watching, could you basically just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and like how you kind of got to this point in your life right now?
Sure. So my name
Cool.
is Brad Dunn. I own and operate Reliant Fitness, which is an online coaching business to help people, create that version of themselves that they want to be, primarily through, obviously fitness, nutrition, daily disciplines, and developing the mindset to like conquer self and conquer everything else. Um, And basically, as far as getting here, like fitness has always been a pretty important part of my life. I've always considered myself like an athlete, played sports my whole life. But I got complacent just like everybody else at some point in their life and saw that I was unhappy with my current situation and decided to make some big changes. And fortunately, with those changes made in my life, I became this version of myself. And basically now I just take clients who want to make that same change, put them
Mm,
through some of the regimens that I implemented into my life, my lifestyle, my habits that got me here, and coach them, guide them, and facilitate their success in that nature. Um,
mm,
Former mechanic, spent over a decade, turning wrenches and working on high end foreign cars for a while. Former firefighter and former pipeliner for a short period of time. So blue collar
dang.
backgrounds, come from all the trades, so the work ethic is there, and now it's just pushed in a slightly different direction. But
Mm,
yeah, man, the last year, 2 years, couple of years really has been a huge blessing to step into something that I'm passionate about and has been a huge part of my life and my success and be able to, help others achieve that same level of success.
mm. So you mentioned conquering yourself, right? So what does that mean to you then? Like, how did you conquer yourself? How did you even know that you needed to conquer yourself to recreate who you are?
So, I mean, I used to, drink a lot. Like,
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily like the daily alcoholic, but I was drinking a hell of a lot more than I should. And I was a, fucking knucklehead, always getting into shit, getting arrested, couple DUIs, couple violence charges. And, I've been participating in that behavior for quite some time because it was normalized to me from like a young age, right? Go out,
Mm,
drink, get in a couple fights, go home, fucking brush it off, whatever. Like that was life, as a young teenager, with all that angst and rebellion attitude and whatever. And then it just, coming into almost 30 years old and being like, what the fuck am I still doing? Like, why am I still
mm,
doing this shit? And I just realized that lifestyle, like that version of me, like needed to die. You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
so I had to basically conquer that version of me and quit drinking, quit smoking, quit, assimilating myself with a particular crowd or glorifying all the wrong things in life and do the things that I haven't done before, which was like commit to myself in a really healthy manner. Put down relationships and substance, that had been a factor of influence for a long time, and
mm,
really buckle down and build the person that I wanted to be.
mm. Well, it's interesting you say that because like when I'm sure a lot of the people you work with, right? Whether it's weight loss, whether it's they want to like work on their sobriety, whether it's they just want to have more confidence within their own skin, it's like when they're making this change, right? I would argue, in my opinion, that the hardest part of it is internalizing like who the person you're trying to create. And
Mhm.
like you have like these relapses or these patterns that tend to come up back into your life when you're making this big change. So like with you, like killing the old version of you, did you ever have moments where like those patterns started to kind of come back and you started to realize it? And if you did, like what did you do when they did come?
I mean, the biggest thing was, I kind of just had that huge realization, right? Like there were times like obviously that doubt in that old me would kind of creep back into to my way of thinking or my mindset,
Hmm.
but and that was like kind of the reason why I started just doing like trying to do all these difficult things, right? Because when
Mm,
you when you go and do like a hard workout or you stick to your diet or you do something that basically makes you wildly uncomfortable and you overcome it, like you build up positive momentum. And like
mm,
once I had enough of that positive momentum, it wasn't really looking like I wasn't looking back, and I'd say the last time that I had like some of that like that degenerate behavior creep in, it was like right in the transition stage of like my kind of like physical mental transformation, and
mm,
I was like going through basically like my own program, like committing to myself. And it was like one of my good friends' weddings, and in my mind, it was kind of like the last hurrah. You know what I
mm.
mean? Like, okay, I know this is going to be a fucking party. I know we're going to be drinking all weekend, but it's like, this is it. Like this is the fucking last straw.
I remember you
And
talking about this actually. Yeah.
yeah, and basically, so got all shit howdy for my buddy's party wedding out on his ranch, and had a fucking blast. And he felt like shit, and was just like, okay, that was the final nail in the coffin. I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want my weekends to look like that anymore. And just basically was like, after doing that, after basically dipping back into that negative behavior, I
Hmm.
knew that I wanted to just commit myself to not doing that shit anymore, because I already had a decent amount of that positive momentum built up from training all the time, being purposeful with my workouts, with my training, with my mindset, that
Hmm.
I didn't want to derail myself anymore.
So it sounds like the missing puzzle was just like the awareness and then what you wanted to do with the awareness to create the purpose.
Pretty much, man.
Yeah.
I had always done like some of the things, right? Some of the things. Like I had always worked out and basically took a decent level of care of myself.
Hmm.
But I like, as soon as I saw what was possible when I really committed to it and
Hmm.
stopped being like that part-time savage and like went to like that full-time, like flip the switch and really, go all in.
Yeah.
I was like, man, what can I do if I don't slow down? Like, what could I do if I don't take any back steps and I just go basically all in 100%, 100 miles an hour on this lifestyle and doing these things, and
Hmm.
I was really turned on in a sense by some of these other individuals that were basically they're ordinary men doing extraordinary things because they basically just chose to not give up, and
Hmm.
those were, obviously the Jocko Willink, Cameron Haynes, David Goggins, Tim Kennedy, like these dudes that went and did like wild shit because they just flipped a switch in their mind,
Yeah.
like I'm no longer going to live a particular way or, be this person. And these are the things I want in life. And the only person that's going to stop me from obtaining them is me.
Mm. It's a funny question. What keeps you motivated, Brad?
Dude. Uh,
Yeah.
motivation comes and goes, man. It's,
Yeah.
it's more about building that discipline. But I mean, it's the motivation that I possess from time to time is when I'm set on a goal. Like when
Okay.
I basically set something out that I'm working towards.
Okay.
And I realized that, when I was getting into the fire service, because I had to set these goals in order to continue to work, continue to push through and drive that dream. But
Mm,
now it's like those different things, those goals are slightly different in nature. It's not like I'm chasing a particular career or I'm chasing getting a job at a certain department. It's like different things, like, obviously, personal and physical goals. Like the last thing I conquered was that marathon I did in January, and, now it's like been focusing on growing and scaling the business to a certain degree, and, developing a certain level of income every month without having to kill myself to obtain it. And
mm,
then, the next goal is, I was talking about this with my buddy Jake the other day, is, maybe trying to, we were going back and forth about that bodybuilding show, and one of my
mm.
buddies and clients brought up something. He's like, dude, why don't you get like in the ring? And I'm
The
like,
ring,
oh,
yeah.
like that sounds fucking sick, dude. Like that's a lot more like kind of in line with my
Mm,
mentality, my lifestyle, and shit like that. So I think that's like my next kind of personal goal, is to maybe line up some sort of amateur fight, so to speak. But
mm,
that's kind of how I stay motivated, is I have to set these goals for myself, whether they're personal, physical, business related, and then actively work to make it happen.
mm.
Um, because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with, Napoleon Hill and Outwitting the Devil, and that book was a huge, switch in my own persona and my own way of thinking, because that whole drifting thing that he spoke about, it's
Mm,
like it's so spot on, dude. Like, if you're living without a goal, if you're not basically, living with a purposeful action, it's easy to get caught up in a bunch of bullshit.
mm.
So that was the thing, is like I always, periodically setting goals for myself, whether it's monthly, quarterly, yearly, and just be, on tap with trying to knock these things out of the park.
This is really interesting because, like, I know when you made that huge transformative change for yourself internally and externally, right? You're on your own journey. You're talking about, physical changes, mindset, going completely sober, like working out with more of a purpose, eating, hitting your macros, things of that nature. I think, like, for you, when you attained that goal, when you dropped that, how many pounds did you lose? Like 40 to 50, right?
50 pounds. I went
50
from, I
pounds.
was 235 at my heaviest to, I think my lightest weight that I actually recorded was 185.
God damn. God damn. That's awesome. So that energy that you put into creating that transformation, like, I don't want to, like, would you consider yourself like you're at rock bottom? You're like, fuck this, I need to change, otherwise it's gonna get even worse, and I don't want that for myself. Is that
I
how you
mean,
kind of
I wouldn't
felt?
say I wouldn't say that I was at rock bottom at that period of time.
Okay.
Uh, I was probably in the worst physical shape that I had ever been in. You know
Okay.
what I mean? But it was rock bottom for me was like probably a couple years ago. In a sense, before I went after all the fire service stuff. Um, but it was mainly just a point where I was unhappy with the way I looked and the way I felt, and I was like, something needs to change.
Mhm.
This is not okay with me. Like, gaining some weight, feeling slow, feeling sluggish, you know, and just knowing subconsciously that I was capable of achieving more and being better. So that's just what it was. I was like, okay, stop being, fucking lazy and focusing on these areas, and chasing guilty pleasures, and, work towards obtaining something real.
Mm. Okay. But yeah, because the reason why I asked, dude, is like when people they have that initial energy that they have, like they're fucking motivated and they have that energy. It's like some people operate from like a fuck you energy. I'm gonna prove you wrong and I'm gonna do this, and then you do it. And then
Yeah.
once you attain it, it's like the energy is released and it's like, what's next? And even though you have another goal that's in front of you, I feel as though, I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience. I think I've possibly talked to you about this. Like when I was 15, my brother was put into prison and I had to become
Mhm.
like the man of the house and everything. And there was a lot on me, but I used and channeled that energy to put towards self-development to better myself so that way my family could be happy again. And
Yeah.
then after I went through all of that, after like I used that energy through college, through high school, through college, through starting my business, it's like now I'm trying to understand, okay, like how can I produce that same energy that I had when I was 15 and use it? It's like my darkness and use it
Yeah.
to who I am today because I'm not that same person.
Right.
Um, and the realization I'm having is like that's still part of me. And it's like, it's almost like a superpower that I can flip on when I'm
Hmm.
going through adversity and being like, I can turn on the fuck you energy when I want to. And that's power. But if it's like you always have fuck you energy, I don't see that as power just because you can't control it. But
Exactly.
I want to hear your opinion on that. I don't know if do you understand, is that even a question?
I I understand completely, man, and I think that's a
Okay.
big thing is like being able to basically harness that negative energy to create something positive. You know,
Mm,
that's a that's a big part of it, like, and there was a lot of those moments, man, because I mean, I have, a lot of darkness and a lot of, prior, trauma, as people might say it, that, when those days where I want to like I need to dig deep and flip that switch, it's very possible, because I I basically tell myself, it never is going to be that way again, so this fight, whatever I'm basically putting in front of me at that point in time, it's like this is fucking nothing compared to what I had put myself through or what I'd been through previously.
mm,
So I definitely can assimilate with bringing that quote unquote fuck you energy and
mm,
muscling through whatever it is, whether it's a workout or sticking to a diet or dragging myself through some other sort of physical mental task.
mm,
It's dude, this is fucking cake compared to X. You know what I mean? This is easy compared to having to deal with that.
mm.
So I get it. I get it a lot.
100%. So would you say that like being uncomfortable then is like required for you to continue to progress?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, friction leads to growth. So if you make
Yeah.
yourself uncomfortable, if you create these uncomfortable like situations,
Yeah.
you're forcing growth. In a way. And that's a lot of the reason of some of these things that I continue to do and find hard shit to put in my day to day or in my life because in a way my life has exponentially gotten easier, right? Like I run a business. I have a successful business. I make a decent amount of money. Like my life is comfortable, in a sense, by any means. So I have to find areas of things that I can create discomfort so I can continue to grow and push and not be like complacent. Not that I necessarily ever feel that I will be complacent again because I've just so immersed in that grind culture to like just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. But it's like I know if I don't do something, it's easy to kind of lose that fire, so to speak.
Mm.
So it's like I'm
How
trying to keep that fire stoked.
so how like what things are you doing to keep that fire stoked then?
I mean, it's like just the small shit, like waking up early,
Yeah.
getting in that cold plunge, every day or several times a week at least. You know, sticking to a meal plan, whether it's maintenance, surplus, cutting, just giving, you know, purpose and structure to my day. And the thing that I always kind of told people is, do do the thing that your body or your mind immediately tells you not to do. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like like, oh, obviously no one wants to roll out of bed and go get an ice cold water. It's like, well, I'm gonna do that, like, or like nobody wants to wake up and do 100 fucking push-ups. Well, I'm gonna do that because that was like something that I did for a long time. And it's just finding ways to put that little added effort into the day. And a lot of that too is dealing with some of that darkness that still lingers because a lot of people ask me like, well, how did you quit drinking and how did you quit smoking and how did you do all those things? And like you said, like what did you do when that shit basically was coming back to the surface? And then
Hmm.
I would just, bury it with action. Like I would have to
I
fill
like
that
that.
void with some sort of task, whether it's a monotonous task of doing something physical or mental, and it would just be, breaking down and smashing out some push-ups or some burpees or going for a run or something to basically release my mind from that current state and push that energy elsewhere.
I like what you said. Bury it with action. And it's funny too because I feel like there's so many quotes that hit, and it's like I've heard a lot of these all before, but for me at least, I think it really just depends on how you hear it and who you hear it from for it to actually make sense. Like, oh fuck, that hits, you know? Because I think far too often, dude, it's like when people start their journeys or something, the hardest part, and you bring up like discipline and macros, dude, I would argue that the hardest thing that you could do is just to stick to your macros. It's so simple, but it's
Mhm.
hard
Yeah.
because we're creatures of temptation. Like we
Mhm.
have everything going on in our heads. It's always about, I mean, we operate our day. A lot of people operate their day based upon what's next for food. Where are we
Oh,
eating?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's at this event? What's at that event? Blah blah blah. And it's so hard to it's a pattern that we've grown accustomed to, and it's like I always find that I've learned this from one of my mentors too. It's like when you ask yourself stupid questions, it makes everything just make more sense. Like for example, like let's say you look at the scale one day and it goes up by a pound. And you ask yourself, like, am I really gonna let this piece of plastic that shoots out a number at me dictate the way that I feel today? Really?
A lot of people do. A lot of
Bro,
people.
bro. So, like, when it comes to making these changes, dude, I know that you have these challenges that you kind of set in stone for yourself. And right now I think you're trying to figure out like what you're going to be doing next. I don't know if you've taken the next steps for like I'm going to get in the ring, like this is what I'm going to do. I'm scoping out local trainers, things like that. But like would you say that's the only thing that kind of drives you to continue to progress in your life for the things that you want to create for yourself or even for your family? Because I know you're a family man too.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, there's goals that I try to focus on for those reasons, but it's like also, you know, creating those things, that's why it's always like physical, mental, business, family. There's always some goal. And I try to like cycle through each of those things, whether it's okay, now, these next couple months I'm focusing on this next couple months I'm focusing on family, these next couple months I'm focusing on strictly, physical. So I kind of cycle in and out of those things.
Okay.
But because I don't want, and sometimes it happens, man. I'm human. I'm still a man. Like the things that I work on or do, like, will find their way sometimes in front of family, and I'm not trying to do that. But it happens from time to time, whether it's physical or business related. But
Mhm.
uh, it's mainly just to keep the wheels in motion, dude. Because I don't want to get complacent. It's easy for people to do, like, not it's easy for people who start to generate a large sum of money and to not basically be at a point where they're like, I don't have to fucking do this anymore. Like, I don't
Yeah.
have to fucking do this shit. And it's like, well, that those things, like this mentality and these actions, are what got me here. So I don't want to stop doing them. You know what I mean? It's like having like a ritual, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you you wear the same things on game day in hopes that your team wins. Well, it's like, well, I figured out what to wear and what to do in order to make myself win, so I'm going to keep doing this shit to some degree.
Mhm.
So it's just keeping those habits in check and that lifestyle in order, so that everything else that I've attained I will continue to obtain and conquer, in a sense.
No, I like that. I like how you bring sports into it too, because I was always taught if you look good, you feel good, you feel good, you play good. Right?
Totally.
Hell
Totally.
yeah. Well, when it comes to obviously like we all have our own reasons for wanting more of ourselves, right? But I know there's a lot of people out there where they maybe they question like what why do I need to be in shape to be successful? Like I don't need to have I can have a dad bod and still be happy. I can still have this and still be happy. I don't care about my looks. What do you have to say about that? Like do you think fitness is required to live a happy, healthy life? Or do you think these people are delusional? Like what do you think?
So I think it's a double-edged sword. I mean, obviously there's people out there that side with that notion, right? Where,
Hmm.
well, I'm happy, I'm comfortable, I'm successful, but I don't need to be in shape to have all those things. And I'm like, that's great, good for you. You're one of those people. But I guarantee there's somewhere along the lines where you see yourself in the mirror in the picture and you're like, fuck, I don't really like the way I look, or I don't really like the way I feel. But the whole
Hmm.
thing about fitness is kind of like what you just said, dude. When you look good, you feel good.
Hmm.
Like it's fucking impossible not to necessarily be happy with yourself when you're happy with your current physical state. You know what I mean? Call it vain, call it whatever you want, but it's like, dude, when you look at yourself and you're like fucking proud of what you've done and the work that you've put into yourself,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard not to feel good,
Right.
and the level of discipline and consistency that it takes to get in shape and maintain a level of physical fitness can be applied to every other aspect of life. And that's what I try to tell these people that come into my program and my clients. I'm like, look, right now we're focusing on you and solely you. These items, these things that I want you to do are going to build you into a better person, a better version of yourself. And you'll get to a point where this level of dedication and discipline and consistency and work ethic will pour into your family, your relationships, your job, your income, like, and you're going to see that you're going to be able to take a level up in life just from working on yourself and getting fit and developing a certain level of habits. And to those people that say all those things like, well, I'm already successful, I'm already happy, and I'm not in shape. It's like, well, you could be doing a lot better if you were in shape, because
Hmm.
you're basically taking a massive equation of self-work and or self-worth and work ethic, and you're just saying fuck it, you know.
Hmm. Okay. Well, like you touched on something interesting too, because like this is my opinion. It's if a person is if they can truly say with themselves with full conviction when they look at themselves in the mirror and say, I 1,000% love who I am in every way, shape, and form, then you've cracked the code, dude. I'm fucking happy for you. Like that's all I want. But if you get like, but what you said, if you have that one shred of just like, I could look better, or like, that photo just that doesn't look good on me,
Yeah.
then that's an opportunity for you to create a change that you would be proud of. And that's what it comes down to. It's like I think far too often people they are living their lives based upon what others want them or what they're making choices based upon what others want for them versus what they want for themselves. And it's like
Right.
their life is a lie,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't think a lot of people, maybe you've been here, I know I have, where I haven't really looked at my life and put a mirror up to it. I've always, like, I used to always think these external things were creating and shaping who I was versus no, it's fucking me. It's the decisions and choices I've made to get me to this point.
Mm-hmm.
But for the individuals that they do have that mindset, do you think or do you have anything that you'd say to the people that you work with, or even maybe to yourself when it comes to like people trying to pull them back to their old habits? Or I mean, we talked about patterns and things of that nature, but like, what if a person is just getting pulled in different directions? Maybe it's their spouse, maybe it's their family or their close friends being like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
let's go out. What are you doing? Like, I don't. You're on a diet. What are you talking? Let's have a good time. I haven't seen you in a couple of years. Let's have a good time.
Yeah. No, and I mean it's different for everybody, right? Like, but I
Hmm.
mean, I definitely went through it. Like when I committed to myself and my process and the things that were important to me, I basically had to like set that standard with certain people in my life and be like, look, don't like I'm not going out, I'm not eating fast food, I'm not doing these things that we used to do all the time because I'm working on myself. Like I'm not happy in my current state and where I'm at, and I know it's a direct reflection of the things that I've lacked, the things that I'm openly choosing not to do, you know.
Mm,
And it was an eye opener of like who really has your back and who doesn't, because misery loves company, right? Like those other people that are unhappy in their current state and the way that they're living, they're all, come on, let's go be miserable together, let's go get fucked off and fat and quote unquote happy together. But as soon
mm,
as you step out of that bounds and you're like, no, dude, like I'm gonna build a happier version of myself doing this. And they're, oh yeah, whatever, let's see how that goes. They're like, it'll only last so long. They like openly doubt your
mm.
your story, right? And then they
It's like the
see you
fuck you
start,
energy now.
yeah, and then they see you start to win and do better, and you have those friends who are like, yeah, I want to see you do better. I just don't want to see you do better than me. And then as soon as
Mm,
you start doing better than them, it's like then there's angst and resentment. But it's like, dude, like you can do all these same things too, because I experienced that full circle. Like I had people who were like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like when I started like doing what I was doing and then putting it out there, getting vocal online, and they're like, what are you doing, bro? And I'm like, don't worry about what I'm doing. Like I see the grand scheme of it. Like I see where this has the potential of going, and you either back me or you don't, and that's fine. It is what it is. And then a lot of people kind of sidestep and separate themselves from me because they didn't really necessarily support it. And then now it's like it's gone full circle. It's like this massive success, this big machine, this monster. And they're like, dude, okay, what do I got to do now? Like, what do I got to do to make that change in my life? And I'm like,
mm,
see, you doubted me at first, but you didn't think, because you didn't think of where this was going to go, but
mm.
it's because they just don't believe in themselves. That's it, and you have
I
to
love
just
that.
you have to be that, that leader by example. And that's basically all it was. Is I wasn't trying to get preachy with everybody and be like, dude, you're a fuck up, like stop living that way, like, and there's a point in time where sometimes you got to ruffle some feathers and make people uncomfortable. But for the most part, dude, I was super subtle in everything that I did, and that led by action. Like I don't have to sit here and preach to you about it. Like I can explain my process and the reason why I'm doing it and how to do it. But at the end of the day, it's your choice to follow or sit there and watch. Like that's all it is. And that's the
Yeah.
same thing I tell my clients is there's going to be a point in this journey where you're going to feel very alone because the people in your life aren't going to support you the same way that they used to, whether it's your friends, whether it's your spouse. And it might get weird for a while, but that's why we have these communities, and these meetings through Zoom and it's stuff, because when you do feel alone and when you do feel isolated because nobody else necessarily understands the path that you're trying to walk and the betterment that you seek, then you're automatically in a room with like 10 to 30, 40, 50 other people that are walking the same path, you know, and you just
Mm.
have to surround yourself with people who want bigger and better things for themselves and not the same motherfuckers that you've always been around who don't believe in shit except for going to the bar Friday night and being lousy.
No, you bring up a lot of good points, and I feel like I can talk to you forever, bro. It's interesting. But like, so let's say someone joins the program, right? And they're on the cusp of believing in themselves, but they're just not there yet. How, like for you as a coach, like how do you get people to believe in themselves to get themselves to take those steps versus you having to drag them along?
Well, at the end of the day, man, I can only do so much for these people. Like I can
Yeah,
provide the plan, the structure, the accountability, but they have to bring themselves to do it, to want it. And I try my best, I'm like, look, man, like, cause some people will just flat out quit, and it is what it is. Can't save everybody. And then
right.
some people will actually reach out and be like, dude, I'm fucking struggling right now, this, and that. Like, and I'll just tell him like, look, man, I know it's rough. Like, I know it's hard. Like, you're fucking tired. You feel beat down. You're sore. You're getting flack from X, Y, and Z. Whether it's friends or family. But it's like I'm telling you, dude. Just if you stay this course and just keep fighting through it, everything will fucking make sense really soon. And a lot
Mm,
of people will, if they really do, they really like bear down and kind of knuckle up through that suck. They do get that big mental switch, and once that switch is flipped, dude, it's fucking game over. It's a whole nother
mm,
person,
mm,
because then they realize that this isn't just a fucking fitness program anymore. This is the lifestyle that I want to lead.
mm,
This is when I look and feel and operate at my best. And I can do this for the rest of my life. It's
mm,
not just some 90-day program. It's not just some 6-month program. Like, you basically create that infinite finish line in their head where it's like, okay, I see the level of improvement. I see the things that I'm doing, and I just want to continue to improve on myself.
mm. Brings me to my next question then, because I know that, on the journey that they are on, like you said, it's not just about fitness or like nutrition. Um, and it can be very hard to stay consistent with those things, especially when you have so many distractions around you, or like, I always like to say like your energy flows where your focus goes, right? Yeah. And so I think a lot of people far too often are always focusing on just maybe it's the negativity stuff. Maybe it's like, I have to go to the gym, but like I want to spend time with my partner, or like I have kids and I feel guilty for going to the gym and like things of that nature. Or I have to sacrifice sleep to actually make this work. So I want to ask, is being selfish bad?
No,
Why?
we have to be selfish to a degree, man.
Okay.
Because
What's the
the way
degree? What's the boundary? What is that?
I mean, that's a hard thing to set for everybody, but the way that I
Yeah.
usually try to say it best is, you can't fill from an empty cup. If
Yeah.
you're gonna pour into these relationships and these people in your life, you have to have something to give. And if your if your cup runneth dry, you can't give anything to anybody else. You can't be there for anybody else. So the whole thing that I try to explain to people or try to put into context is, yeah, like, getting up early sucks. Going to the gym when like 90% of the world is sleeping is uncomfortable. Doing these things, but it's like, this is what makes me feel fulfilled, and it's what makes me able to give more in these relationships. Because as much as we try to negate it, we have like these subconscious nags where it's like, oh, I should have ate better, I should have worked out today. But what's like, when you eliminate those nags, where it's like, I already hit these boxes, I already checked those off my list, then you're subconsciously more available to deal with the people in your life. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
I like
And
that.
people have a hard time understanding that. They're like, well, like, I feel like I don't have time to work out, or I don't have time to eat healthy. And I'm like, well, that's the benefit of working on a program, is because you're no longer stressing about these things or putting it together, lacing it up. It's basically presented to you as a a very simplified format where it's like, this is exactly what you need to do. Then you just have to fit it into your day. And I promise you, the earlier and the more precise you are with some of your time, the better you're going to feel, and you will feel that like almost subconscious stress alleviate itself within a matter of weeks, because you're operating with intention. You're not just like cruising around and hoping that everything falls into place.
Mm. Okay. Well, when you say you're operating from attention and you're not cruising around, like what does your day to day look like then? Do you like are you like a to-do list guy? Or do you have like a Google Calendar that you do? Like how do you stay on track? Let's say you're a fucking busy ass person and but you also have fitness goals and also you have a family. Because that's
Yeah.
literally you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I just recently kind of changed my routine, but it was for a long time it was just that. It was wake up fucking early, and go get it done while the kids are sleeping, the lady's sleeping, or even at the station, getting up early and going and hammering out a workout, because there wasn't necessarily a guarantee that I was going to be able to train in the afternoon or evening, you know.
Okay.
Um, so it was basically making those sacrifices in order to get the things done that I wanted to get done. Um, and yeah, you have to bring a level of structure and discipline into it in order to make sure it happens. And most of the time, it's going to be a little uncomfortable, because you're going to have to get up early. And most people say they don't have time. They don't have time. They don't have time. That's a really fucking easy excuse, but you have to create time. And for me, that was basically, like cutting sleep. And a lot of
Mm,
people say, like, well, sleep is necessary. Yes, sleep is necessary, but you can also go without, like you can do a lot, off of, 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Like, I built my entire business and my entire brand and everything that I am right now off of about an average of about maybe 5 or 6 hours of sleep. I basically sacrificed that extra sleep for, let's say, a year and a half and got where I'm at. And now I'm just basically reintroducing an extra hour and a half of sleep into my life.
hmm
If so,
Yeah.
for me, it was just getting up earlier and doing it early, so I was setting myself up for success for the rest of the day, you know, and meal
Yeah.
prepping, finding time to do it, all that stuff, man. It just you either you find the way to do it or you find an excuse, and that's just it. If you want it bad enough, you will find a way to put it into your day.
I think we're gonna end there, bro. I mean, that's such a high note. I appreciate you, man. Like you said, if you don't find a way, you'll find an excuse. That's literally all you can have in your life. You can either find a way or you can find an excuse. There's nothing in between.
Yeah,
So, bro, I
yeah, not
appreciate your time.
Of course, bro. Of course, bro. And I mean, I tell people too, I'm like, look, you don't necessarily have to take it to the extreme that I did. Like, you don't have to get up at 3 a.m. You don't necessarily have to train 6 days a week, but the way, doing those things was helping me like kill some internal demons at the same time. Like I
Mm.
said, conquering myself. And you can still achieve results without going to the extremes, but sometimes the best results come from the extremes, you know?
That I like how you say that too, because I mean, you even mentioned during like earlier in this conversation where like you want to continue to build and grow yourself and your business without killing yourself.
Hmm.
Because also like you're a family man and you also know that like you have other like cups you want to pour into and you don't want to sacrifice not giving them the energy that they deserve within your life as well too. So dude, that's honestly the reason why I really look up to you in those actions because yeah, man, like it's not even just in the content, but like you as a human being, I can tell you have a heart and you give it. Seriously, bro. Yeah, yeah. I'm being really raw and honest with you. So I appreciate your time, man. I know it's very valuable. Where can people find you?
Primary platform, Instagram at reliant.fitness, TikTok, reliant.fit. Recently just put up a little landing page website, reliantfitness.net. If
Oh
you're looking for
shit.
some info, program info, maybe some transformation photos of clients. So yeah. So those are probably the three best places to get a hold of me or check my stuff out. Um, I'm on YouTube. Haven't really been active with it. Need to kick that into another gear, but I think it's the same thing. Reliant.fitness at on YouTube, but any of those are all good.
Let's fucking go. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, bro. It was a blast.
Yes, sir.